Not-for-profit tax returns.
Yes.
What's going on there, John? Let's fill us in. What can you do? How do you help? What do people have to think about?
Sure. So I think the biggest misnomer is in the name, right? So not-for-profit, the first thing people think of is that there's no profit.
Yeah.
Right? Entities exist to bring in more than they ultimately spend. Right?
Sure.
That's how it works. So whereas a for-profit LLC, for-profit corporation, the biggest difference is that the decisions that are being made in a for-profit entity are going to be for-profit. It's going to be to benefit the shareholders.
Yeah.
It's going to be, if there's a decision between A and B, A increases profits by 2%, B is 1%, they're going to go with A because it's going to increase profits by 2%. In a not-for-profit, that changes slightly. They still want to make sure that they have money available because ultimately the goal is to ensure that whatever their purpose is, whatever they're founded for, they have money available for those
They can
purposes.
execute. They've got a purpose and a plan and a goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And so in a not-for-profit entity, they'll set up bylaws, they'll set up a board of directors, but instead of making those decisions purely on a profit motive, instead they're going to say, well, if option A increases profit by 2%, but option B benefits our charter or benefits what we exist for, we're going to choose option B.
Go B. Now, so in terms of like doing tax returns, how does that affect, like, what's the difference? What are you thinking about and what do they need to think about?
Yeah, so when we start then talking about the tax returns themselves, right, it's going to be on 990. And then what we do is we take a look at all of the income that comes in. So when you have a not-for-profit, frequently that's going to be donations, especially in a 501c3 or something along those lines. You may have some sort of gambling income or something along those lines. You see a lot of Night at the Races, a lot of
Oh,
casino
yeah, I've been to those. Those are a lot of fun, and they work too, by the way, if you haven't done it yet. Night at the Races are fantastic.
They're great, yep. And so you have a lot of that income that's still going to be reported on a tax return, right? Assuming we are indeed tax exempt, and there are forms that we fill out to ensure that we receive that tax exempt status, and as long as we're in conjunction or we're still operating within the bylaws of the not-for-profit, we then report all of the income, all of the expenses on a tax return, and there's no tax. We are tax exempt. The tax return is still required. It's not, another misnomer is that, it's not for profit. There's no income tax, therefore no tax return needs to be filed. That isn't the case. We still do need to file a tax return. Depending on the type of not-for-profit, the type of entity we are, additional schedules may need to be filed, right? So if you are a political organization, that comes with a certain level of administration. If you are a religious organization, if you are for the advancement of education or for the advancement of sports, something along those lines. All of those may come with different schedules.
Wow, okay. So it's not like you're just dealing with a not-for-profit. It's what type of not-for-profit, and then there's particulars about it.
Correct, yep. And then the types of income that you ultimately generate, right? And then we start talking about there are other types of taxes that a not-for-profit may not need to pay, right? So for instance, property taxes. Oftentimes, right now in the news, Harvard's in the news because they are in a battle with the current administration.
Yeah, right, that's right.
And so they're talking about revoking the not-for-profit status. Often, one of the things that kind of gets lost is that there's a lot of land there. And one of the things that Harvard doesn't need to do is at the moment they don't pay property taxes. So that status goes away. Now all of a sudden, not only do you have income tax hit potentially, you also have property tax on a lot of land.
There's a lot of every little decision that's made or something. There's a lot going on behind that, or a lot that can happen as a result, right?
Yeah. So what we see
pretty complicated stuff.
Yes, and what we see often is a snippet. It's to drive traffic. It's to drive somebody clicking on a link so that they get views. The reality is very often significantly more complicated. Yeah, and not only that, right? So there are other types of taxes that we're talking about. So there are different types of taxes that not-for-profits ultimately may be responsible for, but what still needs to happen is that we still need to apply, just like a regular entity, we still need to go through the Secretary of State, we still need to ultimately create an entity, make sure that it's registered in the state of Ohio, and then we need to apply for an EIN, and we need to make sure that we apply for tax-exempt status, all of which require additional filings with both the IRS.
And what kind of timeline in terms of getting ahead of this stuff? What do people need to be thinking about, and you need to think about for them?
Yeah, so a new tax exempt or a new application may take, and again, it's going to depend because right now the government is just behind, right?
Sure.
Specifically the IRS, they're 8 to 12 months behind of opening mail even.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
difficult. You don't have people going to the office, and so a lot of times things that get mailed, they'll just kind of sit there.
So what's the reality of today? What people need to be thinking about if they're going to start a...
It may take, when you do the initial paperwork with the Secretary of State, that's not going to take too long or shouldn't take too long to get back. There's an application. As long as that application is filled out appropriately,
Sure.
we're in good shape. So that should take a few months.
And I'm sure that's even complicated filling that out, correct?
It can be,
And,
yes.
and again, if you miss one little...
It holds things up.
Yeah.
Right. And so
you want to get it right.
yeah, and one of the issues, right, with the not-for-profit specifically is that oftentimes they rely on donations to exist, or they rely on some other revenue sources, but those revenue sources generally need, so for instance, a bingo license, right, something along those lines. You need to apply for a bingo license. Well, in order to do that, you have to make sure that you have an EIN and all of these other items are in place. And so if you miss a box, right, or if something happens to kind of delay things, now all of a sudden you've got a not-for-profit that may not be generating any revenue for 6, 8, 12 months,
Wow.
which is
Wow.
often a bit of a death sentence.
Oh yeah, that could be a big problem.
Yes.
But that's why they have someone like yourself who knows all those boxes,
Yeah.
very intimate with those boxes, and knows
Yeah,
what needs to be
yes.
checked and getting
Yep.
at a time.
And making sure that we're getting on time is the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that if there are issues, we correct them quickly. Those applications, any forms that need to be filed with the IRS, making sure that all of that gets buttoned up as well. Because again, donations are a big part of not-for-profits. If we don't have tax-exempt status, which comes on a form 1023, if we don't elect or are not ultimately approved for tax-exempt status, what's the purpose of donating to the entity? There's no tax benefit from an individual perspective. So now the real benefit, the reason most people will donate,
It's gone.
Kind of goes away. Yep.
That is an important one too.
Huge importance.
If somebody's watching this and they're thinking, I got to talk to John a little bit more.
Yeah.
What should they do next? Just give you a call? Well, how does it
Yep.
work?
So you can go to the website, PolitoConsulting.com. You can take a look. There's the contact form. My phone number is on there as well. You can shoot me an email, give me a call, whatever's easiest, then we'll get things rolling.
And from what I've heard here, the sooner the better, just to get things
sooner the better,
get going.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Always.
Thanks a lot, John.
You're welcome.